Thank you, Hammer Productions, for providing us the sexiest lady vampire thus far. The Kiss of the Vampire was released in 1963 by Hammer Productions in the UK and was supposed to be the follow up to Brides of Dracula, being the second Dracula film. This was going to be the third, however, the script was not written to fit as a sequel, and it kind of ended up playing off more like a spin off to Brides of Dracula, carrying on the theme of lady vampires being turned and creating some kind of cult and undead group of vampirism. A vampire academy, if you will. So it's very well done. It's very Hammer, obviously. It fits right into the series very well. And although it is a spin-off, it's still very good. So it doesn't mention Dracula or anything like that. It doesn't have Peter Cushing in it as Van Helsing. It doesn't bring in the characters that you know and love from the Dracula series, but it more focuses on a different group of ladies who are either vampires or are about to be, or kidnapped and attempted to be turned, kind of thing. So you follow this couple. They're on their honeymoon, and their names are Gerard and Marianne. And you've got immediately the very famous Hammer tropes. Car breaks down, person in a giant castle is spying on the couple that the cars break down. They go find a bed and breakfast where this couple allows them to stay and rest until their car can be fixed. And strange things begin to happen. So the tropes are not new or anything. And it kind of plays just as another chapter as Brides of Dracula did, pretty much. So yeah, the car breaks down. Marianne basically runs into the forest for some reason. I don't, or she notices the castle in the distance, so she kind of wants to check it out until a thunderstorm comes and this tree branch falls down and this chaos is going on around her, and then she runs into this guy who later on you realize that his name is Herr Zimmer, or Professor Zimmer as he likes to be called, and he's basically like an undertaker, I would say. That's kind of what he looks like. He has a top hat. He really reminded me of Coffin Joe, or José do Caixão, as they would say in Brazil, in his demeanor and how he presents himself, kind of thing. And they're actually relating to him as a cool opening right before the credits where this woman is being buried in a casket, and one of the first gore scenes of the film, he throws down the shovel right into, like, piercing the coffin and piercing her heart, and you got the very, bright red, syrupy looking, or more paint looking, like blood that comes out of the coffin and starts seeping out. It's really cool. There is an American TV version of this film also that I researched called Kiss of Evil, so that's what they changed the name to. And they basically cut off all gore, and they cut out so many scenes that they had to reshoot so many that really changed around the story. And I'm glad this comes with Kiss of Evil because I will be checking it out, but from the sounds of it, it doesn't sound like it'll be very good. Because apparently they just turned it into a family film, in quotes. And I don't know, the way they, from what I read from the synopsis, it sounds kind of boring, to be honest. So once they get to this bed and breakfast, which is run by a man named Bruno and a woman named Anna, they basically, they start to notice that not a lot of guests come around, and there's no explanation for it. So everybody starts to say that they're the first guests in weeks or months even, and nobody wants to stay in this little village, but they never explain why. And to me, that's automatically sketchy, but in the Hammer films, apparently it's normal and people stay anyway. So they're on their honeymoon, and I mean, they like their intimacy and they like their private time for sure. They're always trying to sneak an extra few minutes by themselves in the bedroom. Bruno finds rice in the suitcase and he immediately tells Anna that, look, I found rice. That means they're on their honeymoon. I've never heard of that. Is that a thing? Do people are people given rice when they go on a honeymoon? Like, is that a British thing or an 18th century thing? I don't know. I've never heard of it, but I found that interesting. And then the couple, Marianne and Gerald, are invited to a dinner by a man named Dr. Ravner. And Dr. Ravner, right from the start, admits that he was looking through a telescope or whatever, binoculars, and noticed that their car broke down and that he was spying on them basically. He lets them know right away. And he said he couldn't make it to them in time until they found this bed and breakfast, but he's willing to give them petrol for the car to be fixed and they can go on their merry way. And he invites them to dinner. And so they have dinner. His kids are introduced, Carl and Sabana. And then we get this scene introducing one of the main vampires, Tanya. And I'm telling you, this girl, man oh man, it's a graveyard scene, and it involves her biting Zimmer's character, the Undertaker-looking guy. And Jesus, the way this woman is presented, she's played by oh my gosh, I'm blanking on her name, but it's an easy name too. Her last name's Black. I'm gonna insert it later. But yeah, she's unbelievably gorgeous. I think she was about 20 at the time, and she has this long, like, reddish black hair and just a face that could kill. Literally a face that could kill. No pun intended or anything, but yeah, she's just absolutely stunning. And like I said, best looking female vampire in a Hammer horror film thus far, by far. So when the couple leave, Dr. Ravner basically starts to mention that he has plans for them and that he's not going to allow them to leave anytime soon. Later on during the film, Carl and Sabana, the brother and the sister, invite this couple again to a party that they're having, a ball basically, and a masquerade, which is a really extravagant masquerade and ball with, you know, chefs and live orchestra and dancing and amazing looking masks, like scary looking masks and creepy looking masks, but really like detailed ones. So I found that scene to be pretty cool. And Carl ends up deceiving or tricking Marianne to go upstairs, and he basically traps her in a room where Dr. Ravner, who's a vampire obviously, hypnotizes her and puts her in this trance and spell that these lady vampires are always put into so that they could be turned by, or when darkness falls kind of thing. And so yeah, she's captured, and Gerald is given a glass of champagne, which is clearly poison, like has something in it, because even Sabana, who gives it to them, is like, I've got a special glass of champagne for you, and he's like, oh, that sounds good, and then he sips it, and in literally 5 seconds, he's faint and disoriented, and he's like, oh, I don't feel good. Well, I wonder why, dipshit. I mean, you literally 5 seconds after drinking champagne, your only glass of champagne, start to feel faint, and you know, are wondering what's going on. Anyway, he passes out, and then when he awakens, nobody is mentioning Marianne whatsoever, and he's saying, you know, where is she and stuff like that, and nobody acknowledges her existence, including Carl, including even Bruno, who runs the bed and breakfast that they're staying at, and all her clothes are missing, and her belongings are missing. There's no trace of her whatsoever, so he begins to panic. And I mean, I don't blame him, because that's a situation right there where you would start to feel crazy, and as if you may be crazy and going crazy. Yeah, I don't like to be fucked around like that, and I can only imagine, an entire group of people being in on something, whether it's a joke or not. That would make me lose my sanity for sure. Luckily, though, Professor Zimmer, the Undertaker, I'm just gonna call him an Undertaker because that's pretty much what he strikes me as and acts like throughout the film. He explains to him the truth. He explains that his own daughter has been taken by this cult years prior, and Bruno and Anna also have had a daughter missing, which ends up being Tanya, and Tanya has been turned into a vampire previously, again years before, and this family who Dr. Ravner is part of, and with his son and daughter, have basically been doing this for years and trying to create this cult of vampires in this castle. Typical Hammer story. And Marianne is their next subject to be. And Gerald, I keep saying Gerald. It's not how you pronounce it. Gerald and Professor Zimmer, well, Professor Zimmer's idea anyway. He devises this plan, which he's been waiting for because he had to wait till Saturn lined up with Capricorn, and he had to wait for a full moon. So there's basically only one night of decades or even centuries that he could do this, where he does this ritual, this black magic ritual called Corpus Diabolus Levitum, which basically will make evil destroy evil. So he does this pentagram on the ground. One thing I found interesting during doing some research is that this was originally going to be the ending for Brides of Dracula, but Peter Cushing, who played Van Helsing, interfered and gave his perspective in that Van Helsing wouldn't do something like that because it wouldn't be in Van Helsing's character. So the production team ended up cutting that from Brides of Dracula and just sticking it in this film, which also is a good reason that makes this more of a spin-off rather than a sequel. Or you can even kind of call it a semi-remake. I don't know. But yeah, so he uses this, not curse, but spell, you could say, this ritual to destroy the evil, and it does. And I really like the ending scene. Although it's pretty CG with the bats still look cool because there's this swarm of them just going into the castle, and the bats are biting everybody and, just destroying every vampire in there and biting their faces and their bodies, and it's not like super grotesque, but it's pretty cringeworthy to say the least, with the theme of it, and more to the imagination kind of thing. So I really like that. I really like the ending, and it fits all the Hammer tropes that you're expecting. Jesus Christ, though, Tanya, like, I can't even with this vampire. I would let her bite me. Like, take me, leave whatever you want on my neck, hands down. Wow. Like I said, I'm gonna. She has an easy name. I can't even remember. I can't even believe that I can't remember it. Because I got her confused too before I watched the film with Sabina, while watching the film, because Sabina and her look almost identical, but Sabina is the sister who's already a vampire, and then Tanya is more of a recently turned vampire, being the daughter of Bruno and Anna, who drop hints throughout the film that it is their daughter. But yeah, she's something, and yeah, I mean, I really like the film. It's directed by Don Sharp, who was a newcomer. This is his first film. He, funny enough, had never seen a horror film before directing this, so he watched a couple of Hammer films in preparation to direct this, and he ended up really falling for the genre, and kind of noticing the cult aspects and the abilities and you could say the opportunities to create like smaller or use smaller budgets to create more cult-like films that will kind of gather a specific dedicated and passionate following kind of thing. So I liked hearing that. I like recruits to the horror genre and horror community. And it's great for 1963. The Technicolor, whichever one they used, looks great. And it's got its special features. It's got its commentaries with the actors. And yeah, it's a pretty damn good entry. So, that's all my notes. Yeah, I covered all the background stuff when it comes to it not being a sequel and everything, and Peter Cushing's suggestions for the previous film. And it's a really nice in between for Dracula Prince of Darkness and whichever one came after that. Brides of Dracula and Dracula Prince of Darkness, there you go. Right in between those two, it fits really nicely, kind of as a spin-off, I would say. That's what I would consider it as a spin-off. But that's all I got for that. Yeah, I can't say any more about Tanya without repeating myself. Subscribe to Morgan Film Fan if you like to listen to my voice, or if you like my film reviews. And this is Hammer Horror Series number 7. I will keep on going with the Hammer series because there's so many to go through as soon as I find them and purchase them. So until next time, there's more reviews coming, and stay tuned, and I will chat more real soon. Cheers.